What a college football playoff semifinal game. We had an unbelievable finish to Miami and Ole Miss. Carson Beck, Mario Cristobal, and the Miami Hurricanes, they are headed to the college football playoff national championship game after they drive the length of the field, go 75 yards, and it is capped by a 3-yard Carson Beck run for a touchdown. One of the best moments of the entire season, if not the best. You got to feel so good for this kid. Ole Miss fans, absolutely devastating. A gutting loss, and I just have to give so much credit to those players and the way that Trinidad fought, and every single guy that suited up in a Rebel uniform, in the way that they came together as one unit to command a country and to command respect from everybody watching that team. And the performance against Georgia last week encapsulated them as a team and what they were about. And I think that across the sideline, Miami, when they beat A&M, the narrative of that team was, all right, they got a lot of great defense. How would the offense play? And they took it to the Buckeyes. They went down the field. They ran the football. Beck was efficient. Tonight, it was a lot of the same. The first time in college football playoff history, a team had 4 drives over 13 plays. Carson Beck was terrific. The one interception, I don't really think that was a big on his shoulders for that. The quarterback play was so fun to watch tonight. Miami, they dropped 2 pick sixes, probably 2 other interceptions on this game. A really opportunistic defense that didn't capitalize with a couple of opportunities. And then Ole Miss, for their part, I really think it was that possession when they were down by 1, down there inside the 5-yard line, and they wound up settling for a field goal when number 3, when Akeem Mesidor came off the field with a really bad-looking right elbow injury, had a lineman land on him, and that's going to be a major storyline to follow going into the national championship. I don't think there's going to be much that'll keep Mesidor out of the Natty, and he's likely going to have to brace that thing up. But that was a chance for them. 2nd and goal from about the 4-yard line. Chambliss had an opportunity rolling to the right side where I thought he could have cut it up inside, get to maybe the 1 or 2, possibly score, but he would have taken some contact. Instead, he angled for the sideline. But you can't really take anything away from his performance. And even on that final possession, driving the Rebels the length of the field, getting the ball to about the 35-yard line with an end zone shot. Needed 2 big throws to get him down there. Really impressive. His wide receivers the entire season were as good at one-on-one contested grabs. The hands on these guys from Stribling, from Wallace, the transfer from Penn State, Caden Lee, Wright. He had such a explosive unit, and then those guys one-on-one throughout the night. They were making plays. On the other end, the true freshman that should be a high school senior right now, getting ready for his 2nd semester as a senior. Malachi Toney, are you kidding me? With that impact play, the touchdown, and then Kirk Herbstreit said it best. The way that this guy blocks, he is physical. It's surprising to see a guy that tenacious to try and attack as a blocker in the way that he does. Very physical kid, listed as about 5'10" if he is that. And then his size. I can't wait to see Malachi Toney play in the national championship game. He's a mismatch, a nightmare to cover in open space, and then he brings that physicality element to hit you in the face and block. Keelan Marion, this guy coming along with a player that's got a bit more experience, 114 yards and a touchdown. He was a huge impact player. And then Mark Fletcher Jr., he does it again for this Miami offense. 133 yards, 6 yards a carry, and they ran the football for 191. They ran it 51 times. You want to talk about the time of possession battle in this game? 41-22 to 18-38. I don't know if there's as masterfully executed type game plan as there's been the entire season from Cristobal and his unit, Shannon Dawson, to say, all right, we have a great defense. And we have an offense that is efficient. If we just come together, and you think about it, they played a really inefficient game in the sense of penalties. They had 10 penalties for 74 yards. Still, time of possession, keeping drives. How many times did they have 3rd and long? I feel like the 3rd and longs were really on that final drive. They had a 3rd and 6 had to convert, and then a 3rd and 10 Beck fires it in there on a missile that changed the game. Instead of a long field goal for the kicker, instead for Davis, they get a chance to score a touchdown and take the lead in the final 20 seconds. But that Miami execution to keep the Rebels on the sideline for the majority of the game, and for them to not run that many plays overall in the day, that was shocking to me, to see them just continue to maintain time of possession, run the ball 51 times. I mean, a heck of a number. And for Chambliss to be on the sideline, and then for this Ole Miss offense to hold up the way that they did in protecting their quarterback in Trinidad. Not really under all that much pressure. Why? It's because of Charlie Weis and his game plan and getting the ball out of his hands. You could count 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, out. The ball was out of his hands after you would hit that second Mississippi, getting the ball out to his really good weapons. They came out trying to run the ball and had a sort of a run-first identity in the first half, and they went away from it. And I think that Charlie Weis Jr. is going to get a bit of flack in the press for going away from the run, but he had 11 carries for 103. And that that touchdown run was an 80-yard touchdown run. If you take that away, he had 10 carries for 23 yards. So it's not like he was creating big plays, and it was clear that he wasn't quite himself. It felt to me like he might have injured himself when he slowed down on the touchdown run and then saw the defender closing in and then sped back up. It felt like it might have happened there if it was to, because when he was on the sideline, that's originally where you saw him on the bike. I'm not trying to speculate. I'm just trying to tell you exactly what my eyes saw, and that was him sort of slowing down, speed back up, and that might have been where that injury occurred for Lacy, because he wasn't the same player after that explosive run, and he's been such a player, arguably the best running back in college football this year. You just think about what type of player that he's going to be next season. The Ole Miss defense, so many missed tackles. 10 missed tackles in that first half. They did a much better job of getting Miami players on the ground. Suntarine Perkins in the first half, a couple of big missed tackles, notably on Malachi Toney. Had him by the foot, and then he sort of lets him go. Toney picks up that first down. But at the end of the day, he wound up with a sack and a half. He was all over the field. He had a really good game. TJ Daugherty, another player that played well. Princewell Monmielen, who led the team in sacks and took the reins from his older brother, Princely, who will be playing this Saturday against the Los Angeles Rams. That'll be fun to see him play, and Princewell Monmielen. But they had 4 sacks, 5 tackles for loss. I would have been shocked if you told me, all right, there's going to be one team with 4 sacks, the other's going to have 1. I think everybody would have bet the house that it would be Miami. And then it was just Muhammad Toure that had the 1 sack. Moton, he gets hurt, sort of looked like a re-injury on about, I think, the second play of the game. Rueben Bain and Akeem Mesidor held in check. And then, as I mentioned, that Mesidor injury is something to keep an eye on as they head into this week of preparation. And that's going to be a key thing that's talked about. But I would be shocked if he's not on the field versus their opponent in the national championship. What impressed me about Trinidad was how unfazed he was. No matter what the score was, even them being down at the end, he showed NFL qualities. And now there's going to be speculation about whether he should come back if he is granted the opportunity to do that or go to the NFL. I think whatever he does, he's going to have success. I would love to see him come back and play more college football. If he was back with Lacy, this is a team that could be right back in the conversation for the CFP again next season. For comparison, there's a lot of teams losing more than what Ole Miss would be. They battled. Pete Golding did a heck of a job keeping his team composed and focused. That goes to show the culture of the players, not so much the guys that are from, the guys that have the headsets, right? Because they do an excellent job, and they have the coaches, and they talked about Joe Judge on the broadcast here being a quarterback's coach. But it was really about these players. And for them to put on that type of performance and to be right there. I mean, when they're up by 3 with about 2 minutes left, in any scenario like that, you would much rather be the team up and forcing those third downs for Miami, and they just couldn't get a pass rush on Beck. And then on that second and goal, he just had an open lane, and they didn't have a number or a hat on him to account for his legs. And that's what was huge for Carson Beck in the quarterfinal against the Buckeyes. He had a couple of really important yards on the ground with his legs where he picked it up and navigating around pressure, not getting on the ground, letting the Ohio State Buckeyes create negative plays. He's been as impressive as anybody. He had a couple of interesting throws. So the arm, it was interesting. I felt like, is there something with the arm here? He had a couple of really nice throws at times, like the 3rd down and 10, but then a couple of deep balls where the ball sort of floated in the air, or he wasn't on the right page. Overall, I'm not questioning the health of him. I think there was just more of him not being on the same wavelength as one of his wide receivers. But as far as the performance from Carson Beck, he gets no doubt an A from me. I got to give Trinidad Chambliss an A. Stepping up from being a Division II quarterback, playing in those Southeast Conference stadiums, and then on the biggest stages, he does that against Georgia and leads his team from a 9-point second half deficit. And then in this game, I just tip my hat to him. That's an unbelievable job. And then you look at Miami and why they have a true opportunity to win this title game, and they're not going to care who they play. It's with their quarterback now. They believe that with Carson Beck, they will be able to line up and beat anybody. They likely beat the most talented team a week ago against Ohio State. That's going to have the most NFL players drafted when it's all said and done after the 2026 NFL draft. And those guys that'll be playing on Sunday. So they knocked that team out because they dominated the line of scrimmage. And they're going to play a very good team with an excellent front seven that can protect the quarterback and get after theirs. They're going to be tested. It's not a great sign that in the second half, Miami was struggling to protect him, but then in the biggest moments, Beck had clean pockets to operate. When he was under duress, he was able to extend plays and move around a little bit. The way that the statistics went down, this game was decided on 3rd down. 11 of 19 for the Hurricanes. That's phenomenal. And then Ole Miss, 2 of 10. Just not good enough to cut it when you wrap that up. The run game clearly more effective for Miami. The explosive run play for Ole Miss changed everything in my opinion. After that first possession, I was like, okay, this Miami defense, they're holding up. And then again, I think Ole Miss goes 3 and out. They get a stop, and then bam, they hit that explosive run, and they're up 7-3. And you knew it was going to be a dogfight the rest of the way. You had an idea, Carnero with the kick at the end of the half, 58 yards, splits the uprights, and you're looking at a 13-17 game in this semifinal. It's tremendous to see the way these semifinals have gone in the new 12-team era, because you would probably agree with this. In the 4-team era, one of the semifinals was a good game, the other was a blowout. We've had 3 unbelievable games so far in the 12-team CFP. Notre Dame, Penn State down to a late field goal. Ohio State, Texas, the Jack Sawyer fumble strip at the end of that one for the touchdown. And then this Ole Miss Miami game comes down to the final play of regulation. And I have no doubt that the Indiana and Oregon game is going to be decided by the team that earns it, that deserves it, that at the end of the day will have the best opportunity to beat Miami. That's going to be a heck of a national title game, whoever that team is. I'm recording this, obviously, right after the end of that one. But this Mario Cristobal version of the Miami Hurricanes is built for success in the trenches. This is a win-now team. If you're a Miami fan, do not think about next year or take anything for granted. It is here. This is a team that I believed had the opportunity to win it all last year with that number 1 offense in the country that just couldn't play any defense. If they had this defense, that's an utterly different story. But this new edition of the playoff with 12 teams, both years, you've got a 2-team Ohio State and now a 2-loss Buckeyes, a 2-loss Miami team where they can lose a couple games and play their best football at the end and be the more violent team, be the team that hits harder and find themselves playing for a college football playoff national championship because they come out with a different level of look in their eye. And that is essentially what decided this. Was just a couple of key plays where Carson Beck has the deep ball touchdown. He had at the end of the first half, there's the screenplay to Malachi Toney, the play at the end that he made. So this was Carson Beck creating and making plays. 3 of those touchdowns that are on his back that he combined for and making there. For a wrap-up sort of thought, I was wrong about believing Miami would fully control the line of scrimmage. I got to own that, and that's a bit of a concern going forward versus whatever that Big Ten team is that they face. Now, that offensive line for Ole Miss, got to give them credit. I believe that they were going to have a bit more of a struggle just sitting back and throwing the football. Was believing that they needed to run the ball 35 times, that Trinidad would need to use his legs a little bit more. They would have loved, no doubt, to hold on to it, have more time of possession and longer drives. But at the end of the day, they just weren't getting that many chances at possessing the ball, so they were going quick, trying to keep that Miami defense on their heels, and it worked. To put up 27 points on that Miami defense the way that they had played the last 2 weeks, that is unbelievable. For them to play at that level. And then Miami shows the type of grit. They've been in these one-score games, and they've come down to the wire in all 3 of them. And then at the end, it's a long game-winning drive, and then it's a long game-winning drive that puts the game away. And then in this last one against Ole Miss, it's a long game-winning drive. So I have the potential ideas about what that national championship could be. Is it one score? Carson Beck has the football. Good luck rooting against Miami in that situation. This guy's playing himself up draft boards a little bit higher, certainly, than where he was headed into the season. But like I started at the beginning of the video, you have to feel so good for a guy that essentially was run out of town. They came to a new place where they had their doubts, and they had heard things about Carson, and they all turn out to be a lot of rubbish in most cases. And he just showed up 5 a.m. every day, and then that became a trend for other guys on this roster. They bought in. They came in there right at the end of the CFP in the conversation to get in the back door and get themselves a spot. And for them to be in it, it just goes to show you the health of college football where it is right now in this new era and how much it is like the NFL. And that's always a really good thing to have parity, and that you could be an 8 seed and win it all. You could be a 10 seed and win it all. It's just about any given Saturday, any given Monday, any Wednesday, any Thursday, that you show up and you're the team that hits harder. You're more physical at the point of attack. You make the plays when it matters most. You execute on special teams, and you make the more important plays in the final couple minutes, and you can find yourself a win in the playoff. So that's something that the NFL has been as soon as the inception of the playoff format, and now for this sport is headed in such an unbelievable direction. There's going to be a lot of chaos, turmoil. There already is with the transfer portal and everything. But Ole Miss fans, this is something to be proud of. Do not hang your head at all. This was such a fun season to watch them throughout the year. They were this close, honestly, to be undefeated with that Georgia game. They could have been winning that one. So they could have maybe been 14-0 headed into this one. And then Miami, the loss to Louisville, they're written off. The loss to SMU, they're written off. When beginning the season, they played Notre Dame at home, and they are going to end the season playing the national title game in their stadium at Miami Gardens. You just can't make that type of stuff up. So Miami, they fully deserved it. This was an unbelievable day for college football. Their fans, congrats to Miami and then to Ole Miss especially for the season that they put together. Thank you so much for watching this video. It's been amazing breaking these games down all season. I will be back to break down the end of the Indiana and Oregon game. Whoever wins that one, they will face the Miami Hurricanes in the College Football Playoff National Title game next Monday evening. So I'll be releasing that video. Look for that one to be up on Saturday. I'll be posting a preview video of the national title game and going into details, player personnel, and coming up with my prediction for that one. So look forward to that. If you haven't subscribed already, please do so. This is Blitzel Blender. My name is Josh Blender. I make college football content every day, the entire offseason. We're going to be going through these programs, what the transfer portal moves mean, what the guys that they lose to the NFL draft means, where their program is headed for the future, and what to look for. I also make NFL videos. I previewed all the games throughout the season, and now the playoffs as well, and we'll be continuing that throughout the rest of the postseason. So keep an eye on all of that stuff. It's been an unbelievable football season overall. This is the peak of it. We got that Oregon-Indiana game, the Natty, and then the rest of the NFL playoffs. So if you haven't subscribed, doesn't cost anything. It just helps me continue to pour more time and energy to making better content for you. So appreciate you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.
Best player in college football.
That Georgia and Ohio State game, New Year's Eve, is going to be a classic.
Josh Blender, hi everybody, I'm Josh Blender.
To the 40, 35, 30, Espinosa to the 20.